Well, to discuss in what ways entrepreneurs might be more likely to experience mental illness, I'm joined by Emma Mcilroy in Portland. Emma is the CEO and co-founder of Wildfang International, and as an entrepreneur has herself experienced the highs and lows that go with that role. Welcome, Emma.
Thanks for having me.
So, Emma, help us understand, where did your focus on entrepreneurs and mental health stem from?
I think I have personally come into contact with really severe mental health challenges through my own experience and also through my friends. I've lost a number of friends actually through suicide, and I probably don't know a single entrepreneur who hasn't struggled with mental health or depression at some point, and I think it's a topic that we need to talk about.
So what are some of the unique challenges and pressures that entrepreneurs face that contribute to or exacerbate mental health struggles?
I think most entrepreneurs find themselves in a position where they are creating something that's never existed before. They're creating something for the first time, and that's inherently difficult. In addition to that, I think most entrepreneurs don't have the full experience or resources that they often need in the situation they find themselves in. So being an entrepreneur often leaves you in an incredibly high stress environment, high highs, high lows, and that's really, really tough mentally.
So talk about the sort of resources that are available for entrepreneurs and business leaders in this space.
I think the sad news is there's a lack. Of course, we have things like the National Suicide Prevention Line and services like that, but I think it's an issue that most business leaders aren't prepared to talk about, and I think it's an issue that most entrepreneurs don't talk about. When we see things glamorized in the media or in entertainment, like The Social Network, we only tell the stories of those who have, inverted commas, made it, and we rarely tell the dark side of that story. We really only tell one side of story, and so unfortunately, I think there's a huge lack of support networks and support resources for entrepreneurs.
And it's interesting, you talk about this idea of having these glamorized images of CEOs and kind of, just following your passion, making your dream. But as a CEO yourself, what do these sorts of discussions about mental health and entrepreneurship, what do they bring to the table that you think need to be there in really addressing some of the images that we see about CEOs?
Well, I long for the day when venture capital money and venture capital funding is contingent upon an entrepreneur receiving mental health counseling or treatment or therapy as part of receiving that funding. We're so singular in how we look at success and what we ask entrepreneurs to do and how we qualify that success. It's very much driven by numbers and the bottom line, which of course is a part of it, but we rarely look at the health of the entrepreneur as a part of the success of the company. And I think when the entrepreneur struggles, it also impacts the culture of those the company and those who work for them. So I long for a day when venture capital funding comes with mental health services or counseling or therapy, and we ensure that the complete health of the entrepreneur is being looked at.
So even before a lot of these companies are up and running, it lies with these business schools and these incubators in helping entrepreneurs cope with the mental health issues as part of their business training.
So it's interesting you bring that up. For me, two of the big groups that need to step up to the plate here are the media. I think the media need to tell more stories and more dimensional stories of entrepreneurs. We so often tell the Zuckerberg story or the Bill Gates story, and we so rarely tell the stories of any of the failures along the way or any of the stresses and challenges along the way. And so unfortunately, that leaves young entrepreneurs and people in business schools with a very singular view and truthfully not a particularly accurate view of what it's like to be an entrepreneur and how lonely and pressurized it can be. So I think the media has to do a better job of telling more stories and different stories and real stories of entrepreneurs. And like I mentioned, I also think so much of the entrepreneurial community is driven by investment and those in the investment community. And I would like to see the sources of funding making this a really big priority for them and how they support their entrepreneurs.
And we have seen a lot of big CEOs, including Elon Musk, really stepping up and speaking about mental health, really trying to destigmatize it. What is the best way to raise awareness and destigmatize it, but also not really fall into that trap when it comes to contagion, when people hear about things like suicide, as we saw with Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade?
Yeah, I think you see the suicide contagion effect when someone kills themselves. I think that's well documented. But for me, I think that sharing those micro failures along the way, sharing those micro struggles that you have every day, make you much more human. So I would love, you mentioned Elon Musk, and I think that's a good example, but there are hundreds, thousands of business leaders across the US and beyond, and I would like to see many more of them step up and talk about their own personal failures, their own personal mental challenges, how they cope with it. Because I think as an entrepreneur, sometimes you're left feeling like you might be the only one with those challenges. And you're ultimately left feeling like a failure, especially if the company is not performing. So I think we need to see more business leaders step up and use their platform and their voice to talk about the personal struggles that they have.
Well, thank you for sharing your voice with us. Emma Mcilroy, the CEO of Wildfang International.